In a previous tutorial, I showed you how to make this granny style crochet shamrock. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to turn this shamrock into a granny square. What we're going to do is we're going to start off with this shamrock as the center, and rather than sew it onto a granny square, we're going to work it right into the granny square itself. Of course, if you want, you can make a granny square and sew it on if you like, but if you'd like to learn how to make this granny square, where it's part of the square. Okay, so if you'd like to learn how to make this granny square today, please join me in this tutorial and I will show you how to make it. Okay, so to start off, I'm going to go ahead and review how to make the granny style shamrock. And the reason why I'm going to go over how to do this again, even though I did it in the previous video, in case someone didn't see the previous video, and that way if you didn't want to switch back to the other one to watch that one first, then you could just watch from start to finish of how to make the shamrock and then how to make the granny square. But if you did see the previous tutorial on how to make this and you want to skip ahead to that part, I show you how to turn this into a granny square. So to begin, I'm going to show you how to do this again. In this tutorial where I review how to start off making the granny style shamrock, I'm going to have the instruction notes across the top while I work along making the shamrock. Okay, so to begin, I'm going to start off using a green 4-ply worsted weight acrylic yarn. This one here is Red Heart Super Saver yarn, and the color is called Hunter Green. And I'm going to use a size iron 9 5.50 millimeter crochet hook. So to begin, we're going to start off with a slip knot, and then chain 4. And then join with the slip stitch to the first chain that you did to form a circle. Okay, so I have my little circle. Now I'm going to go ahead and chain 3. This chain 3 will count as a double crochet. So now I'm going to go ahead and do 2 more double crochets. Okay, so the first chain 3 will count as a double crochet, and then I went ahead and did 2 double crochets, so there's the 3 double crochets now. And then I'm going to chain 2. And then I'm going to do 3 double crochets into the center of the circle. Okay, so there's my second set of 3 double crochets. And then I'm going to do a chain 2, and then 3 double crochets into the center of the ring. And then I'm going to chain 2. So normally when you do a granny square, you would have 4 groups of 3, but I'm only going to have 3 groups of 3 separated by a chain 2, because I only need 3 leaves for my shamrock. So now I just did a chain 2. So now I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that 3rd chain that we did when we began this round. So now there we have our 3 groups of 3 double crochets with a chain 2 in between each group of 3. Okay, so to begin, you can see where that middle double crochet is. I'm going to do a slip stitch into the top of that one. Okay, now I'm going to work into this next chain 2 space. I'm going to do 2 double crochets into the chain 2 space, and then I'm going to do 2 treble crochets into that same chain 2 space. And then I'm going to do 1 double crochet, and then a half double crochet. And so far all of these stitches are all in that same chain 2 space. I'm going to move the stitches over because we're going to do some more stitches into the chain 2 space. So now, just did the half double crochet, so we're going to do 1 double crochet, and then 2 treble crochets, And then 2 double crochets into that same chain 2 space. So all of those stitches were all into the same chain 2 space, and that completes the first leaf of our shamrock. So now you want to find the middle stitch of that group of 3 double crochets and join with a slip stitch to the top of the middle double crochet. Okay, so now working into the next chain 2 space, we're going to do the same thing that we did for the first leaf. So to review that, 2 double crochets into the chain 2 space, then 2 treble crochets, and still working into the chain 2 space, we're going to do a double crochet, and then a half double crochet, and then we're going to continue working into the same chain 2 space to complete the second leaf. So now do 1 double crochet, 2 treble crochets, and then we're going to do 2 double crochets into that same chain 2 space. Okay, so that completes our second leaf of our shamrock. And then you're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of the middle double crochet of this group of 3 right here. So find the middle one and do your slip stitch into the top of that double crochet in the middle. Okay, so there's the 2 leaves of our shamrock so far. And now we have one more chain 2 space where we're going to work our third leaf. Alright, so to begin, into the chain 2 space, we're going to start off with 2 double crochets. And then we're going to work 2 treble crochets. And then 1 double crochet. And then a half double crochet. We move those stitches over to make room for the rest of the stitches. Okay, so into the same chain 2 space, we'll do 1 double crochet, and then 2 treble crochets. Remember, a treble crochet is where you wrap the yarn 2 times and then insert it into the stitch. So this is the first treble crochet, and then a second treble crochet, and then 2 double crochets into that same chain 2 space. And that completes our third leaf of our shamrock. Okay, and then I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that middle double crochet. And now to make the stem, I'm going to chain 8. Okay, I have my 8 chains. So now I'm going to work a double crochet into the 4th chain from the hook. So I'm going to skip the first 3 chains and do a double crochet into the 4th chain from my hook. The next chain, I'm going to do a half double crochet, and then the next 3 chains I'm going to do a single crochet, and then I'm going to join with a slip stitch. Okay, so that completes the stem. I am now finished making my granny style shamrock, so I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn to fasten off. I'm just going to go ahead and pull that yarn through that loop and give it a tug to fasten off. Now I'm going to go ahead and weave in the tails with my little crochet darning needle. So I'll go ahead and put the camera on pause while I weave in my tails. So now I'm going to turn this into a granny square, and this shamrock will be in the center of our granny square. And I'm going to use a 4-ply worsted weight acrylic yarn. I'm going to use the color white, and this is a Red Heart Super Safer yarn. I'm going to use the same size crochet hook that I used to make the shamrock. This is a size iron 9 5.50 millimeter crochet hook. Alright, so what you want to do is you take your shamrock and you're going to turn it this way, where your stem is facing up away from you. Okay, so you can see where this first stitch is next to the stem. So right next to it, that was the slip stitch. So you want to find the first stitch that was the double crochet. So you see where we worked into the chain 2 space? This first double crochet is right here. That's the first stitch. If you need to find the double crochet first and then work, and then find the top of the stitch. Now we're going to insert the hook into the back loop only, because we want to work just in the back loops, because we don't want to lose that shamrock shape. If we work in both the loops, it won't look as nice. So we definitely want to just work in the back loops when we join the new yarn. So I'm going to join with the white yarn. I'm going to go ahead and make a little slip knot. And I'm going to put that on my hook. Adjust it down to the right size. And then pull that knot through that loop of the green one on the shamrock. And then yarn over and join with a slip stitch. Okay, so now go ahead and chain 3. Okay, and then we're going to work in just the back loops of the next 2 stitches. Okay, so the first chain 3, that's going to count as a stitch. And then we're going to do 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches, working in just the back loops only. And you only want to work in the back loops because you want the shamrock shape to show when you work your stitches. If you worked in both the front and the back, it won't look as nice. Now what we're going to do is chain 3. And then that one where you just did that double crochet, you're going to do another double crochet into that same stitch. So this stitch had 2 double crochets with a chain 3 in between. Okay. Now the next 2 stitches we'll do 1 double crochet, working in only the back loops. This is going to be one of the corners when we do our second round. Okay, and then we're going to chain 2. And then you want to skip the next 3 stitches. So there's 1, 2, 3. And that was like the slip stitch, so we're not going to do anything in that one. We're going to move over to this next one. So technically, I guess you can say you're skipping 3 stitches plus the slip stitch. So do a double crochet into that very next stitch. And then do a double crochet into the next 2 stitches, working in just the back loops. Okay, so that's what it looks like so far. Okay, and then you want to chain 3. And then we're going to do a double crochet into that same space where we did this double crochet. So this stitch here should have, this stitch here should have 2 double crochets with a chain 3 in between. And that's your second corner. Now we're going to do a double crochet into the next 2 stitches, working in just the back loops only. Okay, so you can see you have 3 double crochets in a row. And then we're going to chain 2. We're going to skip the next 3 stitches. And we're going to do 1 double crochet into the next stitch, working in only the back loop. And then you'll do a double crochet into the next stitch, working in just the back loop. And then 1 double crochet into the next stitch, working in just the back loop. And then what we're going to do is we're going to chain 3. And then do a double crochet into that stitch where you just did the double crochet, because we want to have 2 double crochets here with a chain 3 in between. So that's going to end up being our 3rd corner. In the next 2 stitches, working in just the back loops, we're going to do a double crochet. Now we're going to chain 2. And then we're going to skip the next 3 stitches. And then, since this one sticks out a little bit more, we're actually going to do a half double crochet into this stitch. Try to even that one out a little bit more. Okay? And then this next stitch will have a double crochet. And then the next stitch will also have a double crochet. So here we did a half double crochet and then 2 double crochets, and that's just because if we did double crochet it would be too long and it would kind of not be as square looking when we're done. So now let's go ahead and chain 3, and then we're going to do 1 double crochet into that same stitch where we just did the last double crochet right here with the chain 3 in between, because for each corner we want to have 2 double crochets in between the chain 3s. Okay, so the next 2 stitches, working in just the back loops, we're going to do a double crochet. And you should end right there before the stem. So there you have your 4 corners right there. Okay, so now we're going to chain 2 and join with a slip stitch. Pull that stem forward so you can see where that chain 3 is, where we began the round. And then just join with a slip stitch to the top of that 3rd chain. Alright, okay, so there you have the start of the granny square where we've created 4 corners. So now we're ready to begin round 2. So to begin round 2, we are going to slip stitch over to the corner. Okay, so I slip stitched over to the first corner. So the stem should be over to your right hand side at this point, facing away from you, and this is the first corner, which is the chain 3 space in between those 2 double crochets. So now you're going to chain 3, and then you're going to do 2 double crochets, and then chain 3, and then do 3 more double crochets into that same corner. So that is our corner stitch. So we have 3 double crochets because the chain 3 counts as a double crochet. Then we did 2 more double crochets, a chain 3, and 3 double crochets all into that corner space. So now you can see you have your 3 double crochets here. So what we're going to do now, since this is on the side, this is a side stitch. It's not the corner yet. So we're just going to chain 2. And then we're going to skip these 3 stitches and do 3 double crochets in the space in between the groups of 3 double crochets. So do 3 double crochets. Alright, now chain 2, and then we're back to our corner stitch. We're skipping right over these double crochets because that's how you do a granny square. You're going to work, unless you're doing a solid granny square, then you could work in the top of these chains, but we're going to do more of a basic, classic granny square working around the shamrock. But you could do a solid one. I may do another tutorial where I show you how to do a solid granny square around the shamrock if you didn't want to do the classic granny square. Okay, so we just did a chain 2, so now we're going to work in this next chain 3 space in the corner. So we're going to skip over these 3 stitches, unless you were doing a solid granny, of course. But since we're doing the classic type, we are going to skip over here and work into the next corner, and we're going to do 3 double crochets into that corner space. And then chain 3. And then we'll do 3 more double crochets into that corner space. So now we're going to chain 2, and we're going to do 3 double crochets into this chain 2 space on the side. This is the space just before the next corner. So we're skipping over these 3 double crochets, and then you're going to do 3 double crochets into that chain 2 space. So what I'm doing here is, when I work in the corners, I'm doing a chain 3 in between the groups of 3, and that's because we're going to be putting 6 stitches into the corners. And I'm working on the groups of 3 double crochets on the sides in between the corners, I'm just doing a chain 2, since we're only putting 3 stitches in each of the side groups. Okay, so now I'm going to do a chain 2. And now I'm back to that corner, and I'm skipping over these 3 stitches here. So I'm going to do 3 double crochets into the corner stitch. Then I'm going to chain 3. And then I'm going to do 3 more double crochets into that corner stitch. Okay. So this is what it looks like so far. So now I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to do 3 double crochets into this chain 2 space on the side. That's the space in between the 2 corners. So I just did a chain 2, so now I'm going to work 3 double crochets into this chain 2 space. Okay, and then chain 2. And now I'm back to a corner space here. So I'm going to work 3 double crochets into that corner. And then, since I'm in the corner here, and I need to work 3 more double crochets into this same space, I'm going to do a chain 3. And then 3 more double crochets into the corner. Okay, I'm done with the corner stitch now. So now I'm going to chain 2. And then we are here where the stem is. Okay, so now we have this next chain 2 space that's in between the 2 corners. Okay, and it's right behind the stem. So you want to go ahead and just move the stem out of the way for a minute. So we're going to skip these 3 double crochets here. And we're going to do a double crochet into that chain 2 space, and then we're going to do a second double crochet. Okay, so now we're ready to work our 3rd double crochet, and you can either leave the stem loose like that, but I am actually going to work it into the stitch so it will lay flat, because it might curl up over time, and we don't want that, so I'm not going to leave the stem just loose. So what I'm going to do when I do this 3rd double crochet here, I'm going to do a yarn over, I'm going to insert into the space, pull up a loop. I have my 3 loops to do my double crochet. I'm going to do a yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops of my double crochet. Now I still have my 2 loops, so before I finish the double crochet, I'm going to grab that back loop right here in the corner of the stem. So right here, that corner, grab one of the back loops like that. If you have to turn your hook, if you have to turn your hook to grab it, that's fine. And then I'm going to do a yarn over, and I'm just going to pull it through all 3 loops just like that. So now my stem will stay in place and won't move around. So then I'm going to chain 2. And then I'm going to join with a slip stitch to top of that chain 3. And there I have completed my round. We're ready to begin round 3 with the white. So I'm going to slip stitch over to the corner. I like to start my stitches in the corner. Alright, okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and chain 3. And then I'm going to do 2 double crochets into that corner space. And then chain 3. And then 3 more double crochets into that corner space, because in the corner we want to have a total of 6 double crochets. We want to do a group of 3, a chain 3, and a second group of 3, all into the corner. And then chain 2, and then into this next space in between the groups of 3, we're going to do 3 double crochets into that chain 2 space. And then chain 2. We have another chain 2 space before we get to the corner, so we're going to do 3 double crochets there. Then, just before we get to the corner, we need to chain 2. And then we're going to do 3 double crochets into the corner space. Chain 3, and then 3 double crochets into that same corner space. Then chain 2, and then into this chain 2 space, we're going to do 3 double crochets. Chain 2, and then we're going to work 3 double crochets into this chain 2 space before the corner. And then chain 2, and then do 3 double crochets into the corner space. Chain 3, because we're in the corner, and then 3 more double crochets into the corner. Okay, so I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to do 3 double crochets into the next chain 2 space on the side here. And then chain 2, and we have 1 more chain 2 space before the corner, so that one has 3 double crochets. And then chain 2, and then we're back here at a corner, so do 3 double crochets. And then chain 3, then 3 double crochets into that same corner. And then chain 2. Okay, and then here we have a chain 2 space, so we're going to do 3 double crochets. And chain 2. And then we have a chain 2 space right after the stem. We're going to do 3 double crochets there. And then we're going to chain 2 and join with a slip stitch to the first chain 3 that we did when we began the round. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead to move over to this corner. I like to do slip stitches over to the corner. I always like to begin my rounds in the corners. And we're going to go ahead and chain 3. We're starting our corner now. So chain 3, and then do 2 double crochets into that corner space. Chain 3, and then 3 more double crochets into the corner. Chain 2, and then into this chain 2 space here in between the next groups of 3, we're going to do 3 double crochets. Chain 2, and then work 3 double crochets into the next chain 2 space. Chain 2, and then we have 1 more chain 2 space before we get to the corner, so we're going to do 3 double crochets in this chain 2 space, which is in between the groups of 3 stitches. Okay, and then chain 2, and now we're ready to work into the corner again. So we're going to start off with 3 double crochets into the corner, just like we did in the other corners. 3 double crochets, chain 3, and then 3 more double crochets into the corner space. Okay, so now we're working on the sides. We just finished the corner, so we're going to chain 2, and then work 3 double crochets into this chain 2 space in between the groups of 3 double crochets. So do 3 double crochets here. and then chain 2, and then 3 double crochets, chain 2, and then 3 double crochets into this chain 2 space. That's the chain 2 space just before the corner. And then chain 2. And now we're back to a corner, so we're going to do 3 double crochets into the corner. And then chain 3. And then 3 double crochets into that same corner space. Chain 2. And then this next chain 2 space in between the groups of 3 double crochets, you're going to work 3 double crochets. And then chain 2. 3 double crochets into the next space. Chain 2. And then 3 double crochets into this next chain 2 space. Okay, and this is the corner here, so we're going to do a chain 2. And then we're going to do 3 double crochets into the corner space. And then chain 3. And then 3 more double crochets into that same corner. Okay, and then chain 2. And then 3 double crochets into the next chain 2 space. Chain 2, and then 3 double crochets into this next chain 2 space in between the double crochets. So 3 double crochets here. Chain 2, 3 double crochets into this chain 2 space right before the corner. Okay, so now we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3 we did when we began this round. Okay, so we did 4 rounds with the white acrylic yarn. So now I'm ready to switch to the new color, which is going to be the same green I used to do the shamrock. So I'm going to cut my yarn to fasten off, give it a tug, and then I'm going to get my crochet needle to weave that in. Okay, so I have my green worsted weight acrylic yarn here, and I'm going to start in the corner. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a slip knot, and then I'll just insert my hook into the corner stitch, or corner space, yarn over, and pull that through that slip knot to attach my green yarn. And I'm just going to pull the tails here to make sure it's nice and tight. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and chain 3. This chain 3 is going to count as my first double crochet, and then I'm going to do 2 double crochets, and then chain 3 since I'm working in a corner, and then 3 more double crochets right into the same corner space. Okay, so there's my corner with the green yarn, which gives a nice border and matches the shamrock. It's going to look really nice. And then I'm going to chain 2. So when I do the corners, I do 3 chains, and when I do the side stitches, I'm just doing a chain 2 in between each group of 3. So now I did my chain 2, so I'm going to do 3 double crochets into the next chain 2 space. Chain 2, 3 double crochets into the next space. Chain 2, 3 double crochets into this next chain 2 space. Chain 2, 3 double crochets into the next chain 2 space. Then chain 2, and then we're back to a corner, so I'm going to do 3 double crochets. Chain 3, and then 3 double crochets into that same corner. Chain 2, and then we'll work 3 double crochets into each of the chain 2 spaces with a chain 2 in between. So I'm going to do 3 double crochets into this chain 2 space, chain 2, 3 double crochets into the next space, chain 2, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets into the next chain 2 space before the corner, 2, 3 double crochets, and then chain 2, back to the corner, so 3 double crochets, chain 3, because I'm in the corner, and then another 3 double crochets into that same corner space, just like we did the other corners. Now, we just finished the corner, so I'm going to chain 2, 3 double crochets into each of these chain 2 spaces. Okay, so there's the 3 double crochets, chain 2, then 3 double crochets into the next space. And then chain 2, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and then I'm going to do my 3 double crochets into this chain 2 space before the corner, and chain 2, and this is going to be the last corner for this round because then we already did this corner. Okay, so now I'm in the corner, so I'm going to do 3 double crochets, chain 3, and then I'm going to do 3 double crochets, okay, so we just have one more side to finish before the corner. So it's worked the same way we've been doing. So chain 2 after the corner, then 3 double crochets into this chain 2 space, chain 2, and then 3 double crochets into this chain 2 space, and then chain 2, 3 double crochets into the next chain 2 space, chain 2. We have one more chain 2 space before that corner, so 3 double crochets there, then chain 2, and join with a slip stitch to the top of that third chain that we did when we began the round. And there you have your granny square. So So now I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn here. Go ahead and pull that through, fasten off. Of course, you can always block this when you're done. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and weave in my tails now. Okay, and then with this white yarn, if you want, when you weave it in, if you just want to weave it in and just give it a little stitch in the back of that stem, just make sure that you pick up, you know, like one of the back ones, we don't go all the way through, like that, you know. Just kind of stabilize it a little bit more, and then when you weave it back in, just go into one of the back loops only. There we go. And that stabilizes it just a little bit more. There we go. Perfect. And then I'll just finish weaving that white tail in. Alright. Cut my yarn. Okay, so we have completed our Shamrock granny square with our little shamrock in the center. I think it looks really nice. And of course you could do as many of these as you want and make a, you know, nice Afghan blanket, or you could even make it into a scarf. And I'm going to measure it. I used a size I or 9 crochet hook, which was a 5.50 millimeter crochet hook. So it measured approximately 8 inches. Okay, so we have completed making the granny square for our crochet shamrock. I hope that you enjoyed the tutorial today. If you did, please give me a thumbs up and like the video. I want to thank you for watching today, and have a great day.